On count 1, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement. On count 10, life in confinement.
After being hit with brutal charges and slapped with a 70-year sentence, Cash Out instantly became a target behind bars.
Everybody is gonna look down on him, you know what I'm saying? Especially with their charge. You know, that's what people gonna judge him by.
And it didn't take long. Word is Cash Out's already been attacked in jail, and things could get even worse from here. I got all the details. Let's get into it.
Let's get into
Cash
it.
Out attacked in jail. According to insiders, Cash Out just got violently jumped inside the same cell that's now his forever home. Once considered one of Atlanta's most promising rap exports, Cash Out came onto the scene with swagger and style. Got a condo on my wrist, girl. I'm cashing out was more than a lyric. It was a lifestyle. In his early interviews, Cash Out leaned into his success like he'd been born to do it. He was confident, cocky even. I'm in that category of rappers who can actually rap, he once boasted, claiming his bars separated him from the...
I don't know about that, bro. I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? You had some live stream, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know about nah.
The rest of Atlanta's crowded hip-hop scene. But behind the bling, there was baggage. He admitted early on that he came from the streets and had dodged serious charges in the past.
I'm just blessed that it was not guilty verdict and, you know, moved on.
That same clip has an eerie sense of foreshadowing. The way he talks about beating charges. The way he downplays the weight of 2 serious cases. The way he proudly states he doesn't owe anyone in the streets a nickel. It's all there. The mindset, the justification, the disconnection. But no one, not even Cash Out himself, could have predicted how far things would spiral. In 2022, the rapper was arrested on a mountain of charges that sound like they were ripped straight from a true crime documentary. We're talking RICO, trafficking, aggravated sodomy, battery, and even keeping a place of prostitution. But what makes this even more disturbing is how close to home it all was. This wasn't just Cash Out getting caught up in a lifestyle. Prosecutors say he ran his entire criminal operation with help from his mother, Linda Smith, known to victims as Mama Cash, and his cousin.
What? I ain't know that. So the mama is involved in it? Oh man, it just got real.
And Tyrone Taylor. Let that sink in. His own mother. Prosecutors laid out a case that sounded like something out of a horror movie. Women lured in by promises of fame, money, and love, only to find themselves locked into a life of fear, violence, and exploitation. Victims testified that they were isolated from their families, had their IDs confiscated, and were coached not to speak to police. Some were beaten, starved, and threatened with weapons if they didn't perform. Others said they were assaulted, filmed, and sold.
They violated me, assaulted me, and attempted to market and sell me.
One survivor said she considered herself lucky because she was rescued before she could be sold. Lucky. In a story like this, lucky shouldn't even be in the vocabulary. But here's the twist. Even after all this, after a conviction, after victim testimony, after a life sentence plus 70 years, Cash Out gave a courtroom speech that shocked everyone because...
Man, who Cash Out thought he was? Diddy? Man, you ain't got no Diddy money, bro. You ain't got no Diddy money because we already see that Diddy, these same charges sound like some of the same charges that they hit Diddy with. But Diddy only got one charge that, you know what I'm saying, that he facing now.
Instead of showing remorse, he doubled down. He compared himself to Jesus.
Jesus was falsely accused of the Most High will always give you the actual judgment.
Let's be clear. This wasn't a man broken by the weight of what he'd done, or even what he was accused of doing. This was a man trying to rebrand himself as a misunderstood prophet. Even more jaw-dropping, he maintained that all the women involved were willing participants, even after the trial, even after the jury's verdict, even after hearing the victims' testimonies. That, more than anything, is what's infuriating the public, and what may have triggered the recent attack inside the prison walls. Because in prison, you don't walk around talking about false allegations when your charges involve women, violence, and control, especially when fellow inmates know that you didn't just destroy lives, you did it with your own family. According to multiple sources, including commentary by rapper Turk, Cash Out's reputation has made him a target. And Turk didn't hold back when talking about how certain charges don't just stay on paper, they follow you behind bars.
When you are a chamo and you have a R charge, it be hard on those type of conviction.
That's jail code. Those charges, they're considered unforgivable. You're not just doing time, you're marked. And once word spreads, inmates act. Cash Out's downfall didn't happen overnight. If anything, it was the result of years of quiet escalation, enabled by the very industry that once applauded his every move. And that's where the hypocrisy cuts deeper. Because while blogs and platforms were celebrating his lifestyle, the signs of a darker truth were right there in front of us the entire time. Let's go back, before the flashy headlines, before the indictments. back when John Michael Hakeem Gibson was still just a street kid with a dream. In his own words, Cash Out was molded by struggle. In interviews, he casually talked about running with packs, surviving in the streets, and narrowly avoiding long prison time. This wasn't a man hiding his past. In fact, he wore it like a badge of honor.
Growing up in that life, what's some of the things that you really gone through?
A lot of life-changing moments, as far as, going through the things that you normally go through when you live in the life, that type of life, as far as, getting in trouble, catching cases and catching a serious case. And
Yeah, you caught
2 serious cases.
In those same clips, you can almost hear him dance around the edge of self-incrimination. He talks about real people around him accepting the life they live, and even references those who go telling as weak. That code of silence, it runs deep in street culture. But now, in hindsight, it's clear that Cash Out wasn't just living by that code. He was weaponizing it. And the people caught in the crossfire weren't just street peers or rivals. They were women, vulnerable, desperate, and often looking for a way out of their own tough circumstances. What they got instead was a man who used charm, money, and the promise of music to trap them. According to court testimony, many of these women were recruited off social media platforms, Instagram DMs, Facebook friend requests, even TikTok replies. He'd make contact, then start with small talk, compliments, promises, and eventually offers. Some of those offers sounded like record deals, some sounded like love, but they were all the same thing, bait. And once the women arrived, the truth hit fast and hard. IDs taken, phones confiscated, movement restricted.
So he reeled them in, and then once he brought them in, you know what I'm saying, he took everything from them and put them back and put them out on the street to make money for them. I mean, that gotta be a harsh way of living, and it gotta be a harsh way of trying to get money. You know what I mean? To have to brainwash an individual in order to make them believe that that's the only way they can get money. It's crazy work. You know what I'm saying? Don't come for me, man. If you out there, if you out here doing that type of stuff, man, I do you. You know what I'm saying? But that's a crazy work, man. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy work, man. Just do better, man. We can do better. People can do better. You know what I'm saying? Not we, because I ain't involved in none of that type of stuff. None of that type of activity, but you know what I'm saying? Make better decisions, man. Look at this guy right here, man. A forgotten rapper that I'm quite sure a lot of people didn't forgot about, because I know I have. And then the next thing you know, you doing 20 years for manipulating, basically.
According to prosecutors, it was a deliberate system of isolation. Women were told not to contact police. Some were moved between properties. Others were told to make posts, both promotional and sexual. And if they refused, that's when the threats began. In one of the most harrowing courtroom moments, a woman recounted how Cash Out once fired a gun inside the house just to scare her into obedience.
He threatened to kill me with a gun, even firing gunshots indoor, wherever we were.
That wasn't just intimidation, that was terrorism, psychological warfare. And again, his mother was right there. Not only present, but according to prosecutors, actively profiting from it. One witness claimed that
So his mama is his co-defendant. Yeah. His mama, I ain't heard about whether or not she been, sentenced to any time yet, but that's his co-defendant, his mama.
Smith, aka Mama Cash, participated in this
Mama Cash
alongside the women her son was coercing. The house they stayed in, she leased it. The money they made, she helped count it. And here's where it gets even darker. These weren't just grown women making decisions. Some were barely out of their teens. One family testified that they were still paying for their daughter's car and phone bill when she disappeared from North Carolina. She was only supposed to meet Cash Out's mom. That meet the family moment became the trap. He and his family didn't just destroy him.
Snap. So the mama was reeling them in too. Okay. Now I'm seeing. Now I'm getting it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, dang, like females are still crazy enough to believe that Cash Out like can get them somewhere. Bro, we ain't heard Cash Out in decades. We ain't heard of Cash Out in decades, but I see why now though. But it makes sense now. Mama was reeling them in.
Their lives, they reshaped them. They rewrote the victim's identity. One woman, during impact statements, said she was now incapable of parenting her own children because of what she experienced at the hands of this man. The trauma was layered. Physical, yes, but more than that, emotional theft. These women didn't just lose time. They lost trust, faith, love. Many described lifelong issues with intimacy, therapy-resistant PTSD, and a sense of spiritual violation that no sentence could reverse. And yet Cash Out kept denying it all. Even during sentencing, life plus 70 years, he chose to center himself, comparing his fate to biblical persecution. It wasn't just audacious, it was offensive, because while he invoked Jesus and talked about false accusations, victims were breaking down on the stand, saying they feared for their lives every time they saw his name trending. One survivor, whose statement left the courtroom speechless, described her years-long battle with suicidal thoughts triggered by the trauma.
I sit in my tears remembering how this one event spiraled into the darkest moments of my entire existence.
That's the legacy Cash Out left behind. Not hit records, not Billboard charts, but broken women trying to rebuild themselves from the ground up. And now he's in prison. No fans, no flashy outfits, just concrete walls, cold food, and a target on it.
Bro, and that's what I'm saying. That is a bad way, you know what I'm saying, to go out, bro. You was once a well-known rapper, and this is all you leave behind. You know what I'm saying? I ain't mean to keep bringing up a Diddy, you know what I'm saying? But Diddy, you know what I'm saying? He got a whole legacy behind him, you know what I'm saying? And they tried to get him. He was finna get got. He's still looking at, I mean, you know, I'm thinking he still might get some time or they might get him probation. I don't know. But at the end of the day, this all Cash Out leaving behind is running, you know what I'm saying, an arena full of emotional, you know, women that been manipulated, you know what I'm saying? And you once was a known Atlanta rapper, you know what I mean? So that's crazy.
Back, because the moment his charges hit the news, the inmates were already talking. As Turk said in his Raw reaction video, that charge, that's the one people will come for you over.
Those are the two things that you don't want to go to jail for.
And it's not just about the crime, it's about the perception, the disrespect, the betrayal. Even behind bars, there's a code, and Cash Out broke it. When he got jumped in that prison hallway, it wasn't about territory. It wasn't a gang issue. It was a statement, a message from the inside saying, we don't protect people like you. One inmate reportedly shouted, that's for those girls, before throwing a punch. Another allegedly stomped him while yelling, you used your mama to do this. This wasn't a brawl. This was retribution. What happens when prison turns on you? No matter how powerful you thought you were outside, no matter how many cars you bought or chains you flexed, once you're labeled a predator on the inside, you don't get to write your own story anymore. The inmates do. And Cash Out, he just got a chapter he'll never forget. The assault didn't come out of nowhere. Prison gossip is louder than the yard bell. As soon as the news broke that Cash Out had been sentenced to life for trafficking and pimping, along with his mother, whispers started. It didn't matter if you were in the same unit or 3 floors above. Everybody knew. What's worse, people had expectations. A name like Cash Out carried weight in Atlanta. Some inmates might have grown up listening to his music, might have danced to She Twerking at house parties or played his songs in stolen cars. But now that same name was a liability. Because when you walk into a facility with servitude, coercion, and minor involvement tied to your record, you're not walking in like a star. You're walking in with a target on your chest. It's unclear whether Cash Out was placed in general population or kept in a protective unit, but what's been reported is this. He was jumped near the visitation check-in, an area with lower surveillance and more movement. One officer reportedly described it as the worst possible place for someone with his charges to be.
So as soon as he touched down, they got on his head. That's what it sounded like to me. You know what I'm saying? But I can believe that coming in there with that R charge, you know what I'm saying, is probably a different game. It don't matter if you doing county time or prison time. You got that R, you know what I'm saying, on your charges, you cook, man. It's over with for most of them. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it's some few people that's in there for the same thing. You know what I mean? And that's probably when they go into PC or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But where only them type of people understand. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be part of that type of community in order for you to understand that that's okay in their world. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. They got on his head as soon as he touched down.
Without an escort. And that's exactly what makes it suspicious. Was this an inside setup, or was Cash Out just that reckless? Some insiders believe that staff deliberately pulled back on protections once they saw what was on his rap sheet. Others say Cash Out had already been warned, not once, but multiple times, to stop acting like he was still a celebrity inside. The attack itself lasted less than a minute. 2 inmates cornered him. One struck first, a straight jab to the nose. The second came from behind, hitting him in the ribs and dragging him to the floor. Guards responded quickly, but not before Cash Out's face was bloody bloodied and his jaw swollen. Medical reports say he didn't suffer broken bones, but the psychological impact is another story. From that day forward, he stopped eating in the mess hall. His legal team reportedly requested segregated custody, and one report says he's now under limited contact restriction, meaning he's not allowed near other inmates without supervision. He's become what inmates call a ghost, someone you never see, someone the system hides because they're either too hated or too broken to survive general population. And the worst part, there's no end in sight. He's not a short timer. He's not getting out in 5 or 10 years. His earliest eligibility for parole isn't even until his mid-70s, and that's only if he survives. Prisoners with crime charges, especially ones involving multiple women and allegations of using.
Bro, 70? Cash Out probably in his early 30s, I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying? 70? Oh my goodness, boy.
Your own mother to recruit. They don't get left alone. They get marked. As Turk bluntly put it,
You not only have problems in the court, you have problems with the court of public opinion.
and the court of public opinion, it lives loud behind bars. Let's not forget, Cash Out is still famous. That means some inmates will attack him just to make a name. Others might do it because they have daughters and wives outside. And some
Right.
just want justice in their own hands. But where's his support? Where are the artists he collaborated with? Where's Lil Durk, Future, Migos, anyone? The silence is deafening. And that's because no one wants to touch this case. It's not just about criminal charges. It's about optics. The details are too ugly. The victims too believable. The evidence too overwhelming. Even his own defense attorney struggled to argue his innocence. During sentencing, the most they could say was that he didn't have previous felony convictions. That's all they had. Nothing about his character. Nothing
That's
about community
crazy,
service.
man.
Just no priors.
That's crazy. So if that's all that you can offer is he didn't have no charges, that's crazy work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's see. I don't get that. I don't get that.
Even that didn't help because the prosecution had cell phone data, text messages, bank records, and testimony from women who cried as they read their statements aloud. One said she believed she... That's all they had. Nothing about his character. Nothing about
Right.
community service. Just no prior. Well, even that didn't help because the prosecution had cell phone data, text messages, bank records, and testimony from women who cried as they read their statements aloud. One said she believed she died there. Another said she was manipulated into thinking Cash Out would help her get custody of her children. One of the most chilling testimonies came from a victim who said she felt lucky that she was rescued before he could sell her.
After hours of an assault, I consider myself lucky.
How do you come back from that? You don't, which is why nobody's defending him publicly. No PR spin, no character witnesses, not even his past label executives. And that's part of the punishment, because when the court gives you life in prison plus 70 years, it's not just about locking you up. It's about burying your legacy, erasing your name from the culture, making sure your story ends behind those walls. But the
Exactly.
truth is, his story doesn't end. Not yet. Because what Cash Out is experiencing now isn't just incarceration. It's a slow unraveling. He's in a space where the music can't save him. His fame won't protect him. And his past choices are waiting for him every time he closes his eyes. And based on recent reports, that hallway ambush was just the beginning. Inmates have already started circulating notes. There's talk that someone is trying to arrange a second hit, not to kill him, but to mark him permanently. We'll get into those rumors, the internal prison investigations, and why Cash Out's story might only be a preview of what happens when hip-hop's ugly side collides with real-world consequences. The fairy take ends. Not with a fade out or a redemption arc, but with silence. Cold, metallic, suffocating silence. The kind that follows you when your name no longer echoes through clubs or plays on the radio, but instead gets muttered behind locked cell doors, followed by the words, "Watch your back." Because for Cash Out, aka John Michael Hakeem Gibson, this isn't just a prison sentence anymore. It's a countdown to the next assault, the next check-in, or worse, the next time someone decides they've had enough of watching him breathe. By the end of his trial, the case against him wasn't just airtight, it was radioactive, and no amount of swagger, testimony, or tears could contain it. Prosecutors laid out a narrative that made him a symbol of everything wrong with celebrity-enabled abuse. A man who turned his record label into a recruitment funnel, who manipulated women with promises of music fame, and then delivered only fear, pain, and silence. But prison isn't the kind of place where people forget the headlines or forgive the charges, especially when the words trafficking and his mother helped are involved. The recent attack inside the prison wasn't an anomaly, it was a warning. And now, we're hearing that it might be happening again. Sources with ties to Fulton County Jail say Cash Out is in administrative segregation, meaning his contact with other inmates is extremely limited. But that hasn't stopped the threats. He gonna get what's coming. That's what one inmate was overheard saying after Cash Out was spotted during medical transport. Another reportedly laughed and called him R&B R. Kelly 2.0. The implication? Everyone in there knows what kind of charges he has, and they know how the system usually treats men like him. Here's what's even more terrifying. Prison is full of men who came from abuse, who saw their sisters manipulated, their cousins assaulted, their daughters broken. They carry that rage with them. And now, many see Cash Out as a stand-in for the men who hurt them too. And that's why this doesn't end at sentencing. This story doesn't wrap up with a prison term. It evolves into something more brutal, something invisible, psychological, cultural. Cash Out's name isn't just tarnished, it's nuclear. No artist will touch it. No streaming platform will celebrate it. No blog will post his old music nostalgically. His presence has been erased from the very industry that once clung to his every verse, and yet he's still holding on. In his final court speech, Cash Out refused to take accountability. He doubled down on his innocence, compared himself to prophets, questioned the motives of his accusers. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't even say sorry.
I know it's typical for a person to come up here and, show remorse to, crimes that they have done, but I can only show remorse to the people that I know.
And in that moment, he sealed his fate, not just legally, socially, culturally, spiritually, because in today's world...
Yeah, I seen that. Bro was like, at the end of the day, what I got from it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? That's what I got from it, it's like, he already knew that it was over with. And quite frankly, when you get enough people trying to speak bad about you or trying to, put something on your name, whether it's true or not, I can't say, you know what I'm saying? Because the courts, they like to say that, proven guilty, innocent until proven guilty, but when you step in front of them, is guilty until proven innocent, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I feel. And a lot of stuff nowadays, man, you just don't know. You just don't know because money be involved, hate be involved, you know what I'm saying? Just bad intentions all around. But I will say that, Cash Out is not somebody that, I think that would have people trying to get him like that. You know what I mean? He ain't no R. Kelly, he ain't no Diddy. He ain't no, Tupac. He ain't none of these type of people, you know what I'm saying? Where I feel like the higher people will want to, take him down. So whether he did or not, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But he guilty. That's what they saying, so.
When the evidence stacks up and the silence of your peers becomes louder than applause, that's when the curtain truly closes. Even his supporters, if there are any left, are asking themselves one question. Was it all an act? The music, the smile, the charm, the promises. Was it all a front to hide the monster underneath? One victim said, "He stole my identity. I didn't even recognize myself anymore." Another said, "I couldn't parent, I couldn't function. I just wanted to disappear." You don't come back from that. Even Cash Out's own mother, the woman prosecutors called Mama Cash, gave a tearful statement in court acknowledging the pain caused. She said she prayed for the victims, that God...
Oh yeah, Mama look like she don't play. Neck tattoo, yeah, big neck tattoo. She got an aggressive face. I ain't gonna lie. Don't cover me. Mama Cash Out got an aggressive face, bro.
Changed her, that she had to tell her story to other inmates.
I'm sorry for the victims. I pray for them continuously.
It was a stark contrast
to
her speech. She tried to show humanity. He showed defiance. And maybe that's the most tragic part of this whole saga. Because at one point, Cash Out had a way out. He could have taken the 25-year deal offered before the trial. He could have faced the consequences, maybe even sought rehabilitation and rebuilt his life. Instead, he gambled and lost everything. Even behind those prison walls, Cash Out's story isn't just his anymore. It belongs to the victims, to the families torn apart, and to the culture forced to reckon with yet another fallen star whose private darkness swallowed the public persona whole. And in many ways, his silence now screams louder than his music ever did. Because in prison, where your past follows you like a tattoo, you don't get to move on just because you're not charting anymore. You're still accountable, not just to the courts, but to everyone you crossed on your way down. And make no mistake, Cash Out crossed a lot of people. Women who trusted him, women who thought they were in love, women who believed they were being offered a new life, only to be thrown into emotional ruin and degradation. And what makes it all worse, he still doesn't believe he did anything wrong.
I've only dealt with grown women. Nothing was forced. Nothing was coerced.
But the jury believed
You out of there, bro.
The court believed otherwise.
You out of there. I don't know why the video just ended like this. Yeah. He out of there though, man. That's crazy work. He'll cash out, man. You cook. 70 years old. I mean, you was basically almost not relevant, you know what I'm saying? Now, I don't know how many people probably still listen to his music or whatever the case was, but you know, he you know, just messed up situation, man. To all the females, to all the women, you know what I'm saying? Watch out for them type of guys, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy works, man. Yo. So long, cash out. Like, comment, and subscribe, man. This is Jackpot's reaction. Until next video, I'm out.